Are you guys there? Okay, let's see. Okay, can you guys all hear me? Good morning, good day.
Yeah.
Let's get started. Good morning. I'm Nancy Chin Lam, Program Project Management Professional. And I'm here to introduce Stuart Easton, founder of CEO and of the Transparent Choice, a company dedicated to helping organizations align their projects with strategic goals through smarter portfolio. Smarter portfolio. And he's also a guest lecturer at the University of Oxford and a frequent speaker at global PMO and strategy conferences. With over 2 decades of leadership experience across technology, consulting, and innovation, he's passionate about helping PMO deliver real strategic value by turning complex decisions into clear, actionable priorities. Today's discussion will be on future-ready PMOs, leading through uncertainty, driving real impact. We'll explore how PMOs can thrive the times of change. If you have any questions during the sessions, please enter them in the Q&A sessions, which is on the right-hand section. Over to you, Stuart.
Awesome, thanks, Nancy. I hope you can all understand me. I'm actually going to speak in English for this panel session. I hope you Americans can keep up with that. I spent about 10, 11 years living in the States, and through that entire time, I tried to teach them to speak English, but I was based in Boston, right, of all places. So there's no way you're going to teach people from Boston to actually speak English. And Nancy, who just left us, grew up in Boston, so she would confirm that fact. So welcome. We're going to have some fun today. As Nancy said, we're talking about future-ready PMOs, and it feels like the future is increasingly uncertain and crazy. Right, change is coming faster and faster. You've got AI, ESG. Are humans even going to be in the loop in 3 years' time? Who knows? Well, maybe we'll find out today, right? So let's jump in. Let me introduce the panel. We've got a great panel. Latifa is based up in Ottawa and was, in fact, previously the president of the PMI Ottawa chapter. And she has a lot of experience in delivering business transformation and digital transformation in the public sector. We've got a lot of public sector experience on this panel actually today. Andrea Clinton, founder of Innovance, where she builds real leadership skills for transformation. Right, so this is useful because I suspect that's going to be one of the things that we talk about today. She's also chief of staff at Mead Engineering. They do this full design engineering firm, and they do lots and lots of big projects, including, I suspect these days, data centers. I saw a couple of data center case studies on your website, which brings us back to AI again. Oh, are we ever going to escape from the AI? Kyla, out on the East Coast, so we've got a bit of up north, got a bit out east, we've got a bit out west today. So Kyla's out in the East Coast. A lot of experience, again, in the public sector doing major project delivery. And she's also developed something called the Stability Quotient, which is a leadership framework for navigating uncertainty. So we're going to come back to that later on, I suspect. And Yvonne. So Yvonne is going to be leaving us a little bit early today. So we're going to start with you, Yvonne. So Yvonne is a PMO, seasoned PMO leader, currently a PMO lead at Sonoma State University, with a lot of experience in and around technology and portfolio management, developing project management capabilities, all that kind of good stuff, right? Really, really good, solid work. But we're going to kick off with you, Yvonne, because you also are a holder of the CPMAI, which, for those who don't know, that is the Cognitive Project Management for AI certification, which means, Yvonne, that you are probably several steps ahead of the rest of us when it comes to figuring out what AI is and could be within the PMO world. So I want to start with this issue that's front of mind for so many people, which is when you think about the future of the PMO, or the future of anything, in fact, which is AI. And I think there are really two aspects here. One is, what impact will AI have on the PMO? And then the second side is, what should the PMO be doing to enable AI transformation within organizations? So let's start off with, a simple question. Are robots going to take over the world? Right? Am I about to lose my job because of AI?
Thank you, Stuart, and hi to everyone. Well, I think that that's a great question everybody's asking right now. And I think if in your role, all that you do is repetitive tasks, or most of your work is about repetitive tasks that could be automated, like reporting or templates, then I think you should start learning new skills. Um, they say it's not AI that is going to take our jobs, but people that know how to use AI. So I think we need to implement AI in most of our workflows and augment our capacity or skills. So it's not about it's about how we add value as a business function.
Yes, I think we're going to come back to that a little bit later on. But right now, so most organizations have realized that, AI is a key enabler within the business. So what's the role of the PMO in driving AI project success?
Yeah. So we keep hearing that AI adoption is increasing, AI agents, Gen AI, etc. However, many projects fail. And many of the reasons include not using a strategic project management methodology specific for AI. And so I think that the role of the PMO is key, ensuring that the organization is selecting AI projects that are in alignment with the strategic priorities and also that are going to return investment quickly. Uh, we need to do a feasibility analysis in terms of business, data, skills, etc. We also help enabling successful delivery by applying specific methodologies for AI projects, such as the new cognitive project management methodology for AI. That's a new certification from the PMI. I really recommend it. It comes with a framework, a trustworthy framework that helps us include ethical principles throughout the life cycle of AI projects so that we implement solutions in an ethical and responsible way. And also, we need to focus on organizational change management principles. More than ever, we need to keep the humans in the loop, make changes with our end users or employees to make sure that they are ready to use these tools effectively, efficiently, and making the change with them and not to them.
I love it. I love it. So Andrea, coming to you now. So this is all great. And you talked about selecting projects that are aligned with the strategy of the organization. But how do we make sure, what are there any practical frameworks that'll help teams identify the right problems to solve with AI, right? So it's not just chasing the shiny new toy, but it's how do we figure out um, what the right problems to solve with AI are and support good adoption, successful adoption within delivery.
Thank you. And I think that's a really good question, Stuart. And it's always important to try to separate the hype from the reality and AI's potential from its limitations. And to Yvonne's point earlier, there are studies that are stating that up to 88% of all AI pilot projects fail to reach production. And the reason for this is that it's not easy. And, there's always issues around data quality, lack of clear objectives, and all of that kind of thing. And as you're starting to map out your strategy, I think there's maybe 4 or 5 key fundamentals that you can look through. And I think the first one is when you're trying to figure out what problem to solve is to start with what sucks. And I always try to say, what is hard and difficult in your business that you want to see whether or not you can automate or use AI to make your life easier. And the important thing is that it's critical to understand the business problem and take that business problem and determine how AI can help you solve that problem. If you are going out and finding a really cool AI tool and then going in search of a problem, I think you're probably going to usually be solving the wrong thing. So try to get that the right way around. And once you've determined what problem that you're going to solve, what's the thing in your organization, and it's going to be different for everybody. It could be time intensive, it could be process intensive. But the next thing is to start to map out where AI is going to get its inputs, where it's going to get its data. Is it accurate? Is it created? Because oftentimes you may find that there's an entire data creation or standardization project that needs to occur before AI can ever be useful. And then building on from there, I think a lot of places that folks get stuck is understanding what level of human oversight is going to be required, who's responsible, how are issues flagged, what do you do when there's a problem? And then based on your organization or your industry, what are some of the things that you need to stay aware of from a compliance or a governance oversight? Because I think to your point, the bottom line is that having a strategy is so important, and understanding how AI fits into your company's values and your team's culture, so that you're not just going out there and taking the shiny new tool and going in search of a problem versus really seeking within your organization, what's the thing that you really want to solve? And my advice is always start with what sucks the worst.
Yeah, I love it. I love it. It's one of the things that we talk about a lot. So the metaphor I use is nobody actually cares about your project or the technology or any of those things, right? So it's a little that's all a little bit like ducks, right? Nobody cares if you have a boy duck or a girl duck. Here we go. You can't have this tell this story without a duck, right? So nobody cares if you have a boy duck or a girl duck. They just want the egg. They want the value. So start with what the value is, right? Go find a problem, go find value that needs delivering. And if AI can solve it, if that's the best way to solve it, then use AI. If it's not, then don't. Fantastic. I love that. That's great advice. So really moving on, Yvonne, how can the PMI leverage AI to actually increase project management productivity? Because that's a slightly different angle to it, right?
Yeah, so now we are using AI to be more productive. So I think PO members, we should use AI to collaborate. So there's a framework called the AI integration framework from ProSci, and they have 3 different areas. One area is the tasks that only humans can do, like the leadership, communication, empathy. Those are skills that we are still the owner, so AI can't help us with that. And there are the other tasks that are the with me tasks. It's that collaboration, the work that I can do with AI, like brainstorming risks for new projects or drafting project charters, summarizing meeting notes, developing high-level plans. So we are in collaboration. And then there is the other area, the third one, that is for me tasks. So that area is the work that AI can do for me. And those are repetitive tasks that I could delegate completely, like status report generation, workflows, etc. So it's important for us to define the different areas and how we can use AI to be more productive, keeping always that leadership mindset that we keep the human skills for ourselves.
Yeah, that's great. So the AI is a wonderful tool, but the people are still in the loop. They're still important and probably will be for a while. I don't know whether that's for the next 2 years or the next 20 years, but certainly for a while. So Andrew, we're sort of inching towards what some of the soft skills might be there, right? So there's kind of a hint that there's human on top of the AI. It's not all about AI; it's about the human as well. So what are some of the soft skills that are most important moving forward, and what can the PMO be doing to ensure that project managers in particular are still awake, right? That they're not just letting the autopilot fly the plane on autopilot, right? That they've actually got their hands on the controls.
So this is something that I actually feel very passionately about, Stuart, and AI is able to help us do things faster and smarter in the project management world than we could have ever imagined. It's kind of reduced that administrative burden, and it's a great helper, but at the same time, we have to be careful of what I like to call the teleprompter effect. And what I mean by that is that as we start to rely on AI to do everything, we have to be careful that we're not taking a passive role in our own skills and development. And what that looks like is that we're potentially losing our ability to think, to feel, and to adapt, which are key things that we need from our project managers. And we run the risk of creating these AI-dependent project managers who they just can't lead without prompts anymore, and they freeze in confusion when they don't have AI to tell them what to do. And if you think about, for example, AI can absolutely help you write a project plan or create a schedule, but what it can't do is inspire the team to care about it. And that is a very project manager centric thing. It can flag delays in your schedule. It can tell you where you're behind, but it's not going to be able to navigate the team tension or resolve any cross-functional conflicts. That still needs those human soft skills. And, another example here, it might be able to take your meeting notes and suggest action items, and it's still not going to be able to, take those tasks and align them with any unwritten human priorities, days off, or other strategic nuances. So I think ultimately making sure that we own the development of our soft skills and truly remembering that AI, it's like a GPS, right? It can be a guide. It can help you get from A to B, but if we're not learning how to navigate independently, then we're going to get lost without it. So staying in control of not only our own soft skills, but building teams and creating an environment where our teams are maintaining those as well.
Excellent. And I like that idea of staying in control, particularly when it comes to being accountable for business outcomes, right? Because the AI is not going to do that. You can't sack the AI because you didn't deliver the business outcomes. So it's the soft skills, but ultimately it's there to deliver a business result, to deliver an egg, not deliver a duck, right? That's what it's all about. So fantastic. So projects have always been about delivering that business value. And so more than ever, I think moving forward, the PMO is a business function, right? More and more of a business function, less and less of a technical function. So Latifa, this one's for you. Too many PMOs are still seen as the process police, right? They're the enforcers. People dive into the bathroom to escape them when they see them walking down the corridor, right? That's a bad sign. So, what should PMOs be doing to evolve from process police to being real business partners, right? So they're embedded in the strategy, shaping priorities, supporting the board level decisions, all that kind of good stuff. So talk to me about that a little bit.
Yeah, thank you, Stuart, for the great question. And I think I'll take you back to, I think what you were mentioning earlier about the duck and the egg. I think we need to shift the positioning of PMOs to delivering way more eggs. So organizations need to have their PMOs, or actually, let's say, PMOs should not necessarily run on their own track within organization, but really become an enabler for organizational strategy and results, and most also importantly, executive decision making. So in shifting a mindset of the PMO and being more value-driven than process-driven, it means trying to move away from a checklist or checkbox exercise. Okay, I've completed X number of templates. We're good to proceed to the next phase of your project. So talking more about, okay, what's the added value? What is it bringing to the table? How does that impact the organization as a whole? And then speaking about that is connecting and speaking the language of executives. But what I mean by that is making sure that we answer two basic questions. So what? And what does that mean for an executive? Executives, yes, want to know, but the budget is on track. And then so it's the schedule for a project. But what they want to know ultimately is how is it driving growth in the organization? What is the ROI? Okay, and what's in it for them? Any risks? What is the value for the customers? Okay, making sure that PMOs are also very importantly connected to the governance. So both we can talk about corporate governance, so organizational governance, really be at those high-end strategic tables. I think, Stuart, you've alluded to being at the board table or any prioritization or planning forum, just to be aware of any like where those trade-offs are being made and be able to influence from a portfolio perspective, but also be part of like project governance, so such as steering committees, just to make sure again that they have a good handle and they are to be perceived as co-creators of solution rather than an oversight to like projects and sponsors.
Awesome, love that. And on that governance thing, tying in with what you were saying a little bit earlier, those governance meetings, make sure that you're not there just vomiting project data onto the table.
Yeah.
Right. Executives are looking for insight. They want to know what's the value, what's at risk, what value is at risk, and what decisions do I need to make to fix it. Right. That's it. That's basically all they want to know. So I wholeheartedly applaud everything that you just said, Latifa. So moving on. So in times of uncertainty and in light of what you just said, Latifa, the gap between what organizations want and hope that project management will deliver and what actually does get delivered becomes even more visible when things are changing quickly, right? When change is hitting you. So Andrea, just coming back to you, how can the PMO and delivery leaders clarify roles and cut through all the organizational friction and really build empowered teams that drive impact instead of just tracking the chaos?
And I think sometimes it starts with just coming back to the basics and starting with clarity and determining what does project management actually mean in your organization? Because rarely is it textbook. And if you want to operate at a higher level, then you really have to define the role that operates at the higher level. And if you define the role of a project manager that operates at a higher level, that helps both the project managers and the organization understand exactly what you expect them to own and exactly how they show up in a leader position. And it helps everybody understand that they're not just expected to coordinate or chase fires, but they're expected to lead and that they have a seat at the strategy table, not just the task tracking table. And working with leadership to make sure that they're filling in the blanks for everyone else so that everyone understands this role. And once you've defined the role, then you really need to kind of move into the skills and fit, right? Are you hiring project leaders that fit the role that you've defined? Are you training your project leaders in order to elevate and upskill to fit the role that you've defined? And helping to navigate both the people and the politics as well as the tasks and the timeline, which of course goes back to the influence and the soft skills and those types of things. And then just a final couple points there is sometimes if you start to evaluate where are the friction points that either your PMs are creating or experiencing, and you find out what people are saying about your project managers, I think you can often find in hearing that, where are your gaps? Is what you're hearing fair or unfair based on how you've set the role clarity? And then looking at the structure and enablement across your organization to determine whether or not you've created a structure that enables the decision-making authority, that allows them to amplify their voice and create the impact that you want, that shifts them from traffic cops to true leaders within the organization.
Yeah, and I think the skills are super critical there, right? Because if you go in and talk project language at executives, then you're not going to be taken seriously. If you go in and talk business language, and one of the leadership, strategy, business goals, these are the phrases that you've all been using, right? And that's what the executives are expecting. So, this is about PMOs of the future. If you're not using that language every day, and if your project leaders aren't using that language every day, you need to change that. Right? You got to get that. Super, super important. So, and interestingly, these fundamentals, they've been true forever, right? This isn't new. I know this is about PMOs of the future, but this has been true forever. I've been on stages talking about this for a decade, and others were out there doing it before me. But it feels right now like the world is even more chaotic. So yes, the basics still apply, but the world is even more chaotic with change and uncertainty everywhere. So Kyla, I'm going to come to you now, if I may. How can PMOs sustain delivery and stakeholder trust during these times of uncertainty? Leadership, there are leadership shifts going on, organizational disruption. Goodness knows what's happening with government policy around the world, right? All of this is going on all at the same time. So, what is it that we can do to sustain delivery and both delivery and trust of the leadership team?
Yes, thank you for your question. So I actually believe that chaos and change doesn't necessarily break the PMOs. It actually reveals the foundation. And so how we show up as leaders in those moments actually defines the difference between disruption and then direction. So you can even say that the type of disruption helps you to kind of like identify which direction is needed for that scenario. So when you have leadership shifts or when the organization is in flux, PMOs often become that emotional and operational anchor. So what sustains delivery in those moments isn't like a new dashboard or a schedule, it's actually trust. And so trust is that invisible infrastructure of performance. It's when people trust leadership, they actually stay steady. And when they lose trust, even a well-planned project can crumble. And so the first thing I do in those moments is to kind of like stabilize communication, which I'll share just 3 helpful tips, which is the first is to clarify what we do know and what we're still learning. And then the second one is to humanize those updates. So instead of those status reports, you can create conversations. And then the third is to invite transparency from stakeholders early and often. And so this signals to your team that we might not control the storm, but we're steering that ship together. Thank you.
I really like that. I like that framework that you've got there to kind of hold that all together. That's brilliant, Kyla. And I really like this idea of that metaphor you just used, where you've got the ship, the waves are smashing against the side, and our job is to keep the ship going straight, right? It's to be the rudder and the keel that stops the whole thing capsizing.
Exactly.
Yeah, that's fantastic. So Latifa, I'm going to come to you now. So one area of uncertainty that's increasing, there are new regulations around environment, around compliance. The whole ESG thing is just getting bigger and bigger and bigger. Ironically, in the world of climate warming, that ESG is snowballing, right? So here we go. So in fact, this was one of the main themes. I don't know if you know this, but this was one of the main themes at the APM, the Association of Project Management's conference this year in the UK. So it's a really, really hot topic. So around the world, organizations are under growing pressure to align with ESG and sustainability commitments. PMOs are increasingly expected to go beyond the iron triangle, right? Cost, scope, all that kind of good stuff, and to support this ESG agenda. So how can PMOs embed sustainability and ESG considerations into the projects and into the portfolio management process?
Thank you, Stuart. And in fact, a really good question and really timely. So I think first and foremost, I think we've been talking about, positioning PMOs to deliver value. I think there has to be a shift in culture. Okay, so positioning PMOs as champions of responsible delivery. Okay, so, and from that, like, we need to recognize that for many organizations today, and despite the chaos, it requires a change journey. So like organizations or PMOs need to raise awareness, making sure that there is the capabilities, shift how people think about reporting beyond that your regular KPIs, to your point. So the triple constraint that we have, well, there is, what is described in the sustainability word, like the triple bottom line constraint. Okay, so how does my project have an impact on not only like the dollar value, but on climate consideration or on social impact, for example, if we're talking about housing. So that requires time and then really like a very comprehensive change agenda. In addition to that, when we talk about, so how does it fit within like an organization, making sure that in the governance setting, so for example, when we talk about prioritization and portfolio management of projects, we again consider adding more than the financial and the strategic impact of the project. So looking at considerations before a project gets approved and prioritization. Okay, so what is the impact? Is there like any considerations to be given on climate? Do we need to add measures and outcomes related to that? And then similarly to social outcomes, if applicable, for the specific projects. So really driving the discussions at all the levels of the organization around like delivering responsibly. What does that mean in terms of corporate social responsibility of the organization vis-a-vis like the environment it exists in? It also requires from PMOs to, come up with, develop some practical tools. So ESG checklist, KPIs that like are more, tangible, because I think one of the challenges that project managers struggle with is that it's a shift from output to outcomes, right? So sometimes they would wonder like how to measure those outcomes. Well, some guidance and some checklists and support practically from PMOs could drive that shift, in addition to continuously building the capability and to support that growth mindset and responsible delivery.
Awesome. Thank you for that. It certainly mirrors what we've been seeing. We most of our work is at the sort of strategy and portfolio management end of things. And 5 years ago, people would have had a little budget for a little portfolio of ESG stuff that was out there, right? It was a checkbox. We've got a portfolio. We're doing it. Now, what we're seeing more and more is that those metrics are being built. Those criteria are being built right in at the beginning of the main business. It's just part of business. And organizations have realized that, if you do things that are good for the environment, usually it's also good for the business. Right? Great. Love to hear it. And we've kind of gone full circle from machines, right? The AI stuff and the robots. We've come right back around to the stuff that's good for people, which is, the ESG stuff, especially the environmental and social side of that. So let's stay with those people for a minute and see how we can support people in making all of this change happen. So Kyla, coming to you, how can project leaders balance the technical execution with the emotional intelligence, right? So the technical aspects of the job and the human aspects of the job, to ensure that PMOs really remain people focused, not just, robot process factories.
Yes, I love that. So one of the misconceptions about PMOs is that success comes from process maturity. But the truth is, and what I believe, is that processes don't necessarily deliver outcomes. It's actually the people. And so a human-centered PMO recognizes that emotional intelligence and technical precision are both equal parts of project excellence. And so you have technical excellence that keeps the plan on track. And then you have emotional intelligence, which keeps the people on track. We actually need both. But in practice, we see that emotional intelligence often gets pushed aside when pressure hits. So I'll share another 3 tips that I keep the balance with. The first being, you pair every major milestone with a morale check-in. The second one would be when metrics slip, or even before that happens, just ask how people are feeling before asking what went wrong. And then the third will be to encourage psychological safety in PMO culture. It's basically how innovation survives bureaucracy. And so the goal is to kind of like just lead with humanity and precision. It's recognizing that you can automate processes, but you can't automate the trust that I was talking about earlier.
There you go. And that's tied into your, Kyla's developed something called the stability quotient, right? Which is around some key traits like, calmness and trust and adaptive communication and morale and routines and empathy, right? Things you were just talking about. So what are the practical ways that PMOs can use that framework to really drive long-term project success?
Thank you. So stability quotient was born out of uncertainty. And so with the stability quotient, you have a stable acronym. And so the stable acronym offers practical and repeatable behavior for PMOs to model. So with stable, you have the S for staying calm. So in meetings, you can set that emotional baseline. So if you're anxious, the whole room will be too. And I noticed that in a lot of my meetings. So I try to stay calm. The T standing for team trust. It's where you celebrate those small wins publicly and you address those challenges privately. And then for A, you have adaptive communication, where you reframe the data in ways that each audience can both feel and understand. Then for B, you have buffer and morale, where you protect the team by filtering the noise before it even reaches them. And then with L, you have lead in with routine, where you create a rhythm, whether it be Monday syncs or Friday reflections or even monthly retros. You kind of like restore the control with those routine aspects. And then with E, you have empathic planning. So before finalizing a schedule, you can ask yourself, can my team actually sustain this pace? And so when PMOs apply those consistently, you actually deliver projects and you build resilient cultures. I actually like to say that AI maps that plan, but then emotional intelligence, or EI, drives that execution. And so that stability quotient framework bridges the two by turning process-driven PMOs into people-powered movements. And so when your team feels seen, they feel safe, and they actually feel supported, the project delivery flows. So overall, just building that stability in our PMOs is about creating an environment where people can deliver their best, even when everything around them is changing or even crumbling around them.
Love it. Love it. I love that people-powered movement. So I've written that down. I'm going to steal that and use that wherever I go. I'm a terrible magpie that way, so I make no apology. That's fantastic. Thank you for that. Now we have a question from the audience. See if anybody feels like picking this one up. So this is from Johnson. I can't see your family name, but Johnson. With AI on the rise, what skills, certifications, and leadership capabilities should PMO professionals develop to stay relevant and lead future-ready PMOs? And he's thinking very specifically around AI here. So do you have anybody got any thoughts? Anybody want to volunteer an answer to that one? Oh, everybody's kind of panicked.
I'll take a quick crack at it.
Yeah, thank you. Because
Yeah,
otherwise
I mean,
was going to have to do it.
in addition to everything that we've talked about today, I think one of the most important ones that I'm seeing is the ability to learn prompt engineering, right? Learning how to communicate with your AI, because the better questions and the inputs that we ask, the better outputs we'll get. And I think that that is something that we can really, really lean into, to learn how to kind of engineer the outputs from AI to make it a better tool.
Yeah, and I'll sort of see that and raise it a little bit, which is to go from kind of just straight prompt engineering to being able to build your own agents.
Yes.
So being able to do that, we use that inside our business. So for example, my marketing friends have created what they call Little Stew, which is an AI agent which can write marketing copy and do all kinds of really cool things. And it sounds just like me. It's unbelievable. So you could do that interaction by interaction through prompt engineering, or you can build an agent that just knows how to do it. And then it's reusable and scalable. So taking that and really making sure you're upskilling. And I think the biggest thing around AI is, don't assume that what you were doing 6 months ago is still the right thing to be doing. So I'm afraid it's going to be a period of learning, growth, and change for absolutely everybody for the foreseeable future. So thank you for that question, Johnson. We're just going to wrap up now. Yes, we've got about a minute and a half to wrap up. So in summary, look, change is coming at us faster than ever, right? So to answer the question, what's a future-ready PMO? It kind of feels like it's a set of traits rather than a thing, right? And capabilities. With I wrote down 4 main themes earlier, but I'm going to add in one more based on what everybody said today as well. So it's first and foremost, be a business function. Be focused on delivering business value, right? That's the most important thing. It's the only reason we do projects, is to deliver business value. It's about the eggs, not the ducks. AI readiness, we just talked about it again. We've all got to be learning, open minds, looking for opportunities, just engage with it. ESG awareness, if you're not familiar with what ESG means and what the impacts are in your organization, go find out, because it matters, and start building that into your plans. And then the 4th theme was just people. And then the fifth theme that has come out quite strongly, the way that everybody's spoken today, which is around leadership and strategic alignment, really building those soft leadership skills, especially some of that stability quotient stuff that we were talking about a little bit earlier on. So I find it really interesting that points 1 and 4 there, they've been around forever, right? That's what made a good PMO 10 years ago. And it's what will make a good PMO 10 years from now, right? So that's your anchor. And then all the other stuff around AI and ESG is dominating the airwaves. But points 1 and 4, right? Business value, people, those are going to be there forever. So people are key to making it happen. And I would like to thank one person in particular for pulling this together. Nancy, really appreciate everything that you've done pulling this session together. Yeah, absolutely. You have no idea, folks, how much effort goes into pulling this whole event together. And so please, please, please come again next year, promote it to your friends, tell everybody about it. The volunteers work incredibly hard. Speakers have an easy job. We just turn up and speak, right? But these guys, they do an incredible amount of work. So thank you, Nancy. Really appreciate it. And to everybody out there, good luck figuring out what your future PMO looks like.
Thank you, Stuart, Latifa, Andrea, and Kyla, and Yvonne, who left. Thank you so much for a valuable, insightful discussion. We're now at time, and we'll take a quick 10-minute break. Up next, we'll hear from Cecilia Gaga, who will be presenting a PMO that adds value to citizens' challenges of creating a PMO in a national state and agency. Thank you all.
Thanks, everyone.